Welcome back, everybody. The focus of the White House and this Russian investigation. The other day, my good friend Gregg Jarrett stops by my office and I have a book out. And I heard the buzz. And it's really a great book where it takes a look at the whole Russian investigation. He doesn't quite buy what the consensus media is on it. But I started reading it because you might have heard one or two other Fox people have books out. That's fine. This is enormously researched, footnoted, references to things that happened back in the Stone Age. I'm telling you, it's awesome. Now, you can quibble with the conclusions and all of that. Those, of course, who don't like the president, others who do. But man, this is a riveting read on what's happening now in real time and whether the president is a crook or whether he's being railroaded. Without any further ado, Gregg Jarrett, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Exhaustive. I'm not talking about the ordeal of reading. And I'm talking about just exhaustively researched, and you come to the conclusion that it's a hoax. The whole Rush thing is a hoax. Right. Now, I read the whole thing, and I'm just saying it's not all a hoax. There's a lot of stuff bubbling up, right? Meetings that you kind of dismiss, other things happen. But why do you end up calling it a hoax?
Well, we've been talking a lot today about the Trump Tower meeting. There's nothing illegal about meeting with a Russian. I have an entire chapter devoted. It's not a crime to meet with a Russian. It's not a violation of the federal campaign.
But you don't know what came out of that meeting, right?
It doesn't matter. Even if evidence of Hillary Clinton wrongdoing came out,
right.
That's a matter of vital public interest, and it's not a violation of the Federal Campaign Election Act, which specifically states foreign nationals may participate in American campaigns.
But what if he said he never knew of a meeting, never condoned such a meeting?
It's not a crime to lie to the media. If that were so, then just about every politician in Washington would be behind bars.
All right. So does it depend on what's discussed at that meeting?
No, it doesn't matter. I present one caveat in here. If the Russian lawyer said, here's stolen documents, and if, Trump Jr. knew they were stolen and used them, that is arguably a crime. But none of that ever happened. Our own Catherine Herridge interviewed the Russian lawyer who said, we never talked about Hillary Clinton. I didn't give them any information about Hillary Clinton.
All right. So the president and his fixation on this Russian investigation, he's called it a hoax. You seem to come to the same opinion. But you do acknowledge the Russians were involved in mucking around in the process, and that's not good. Do you think the president then with Vladimir Putin should have been more forceful about it?
You know, that's a political judgment. I think he is trying to engage in rapprochement with the Russians to improve relations. And how can you argue with that? I mean, look, they have, they're a nuclear power. And they're certainly a strategic adversary of ours. And why wouldn't America want?
No, I'd see all of that, but I understand why he's frustrated by this, because I do buy the conclusion that that I don't think it altered the votes or the outcome and all that. But I do think he's betwixt and between how to deal with it, because every time he does, he feels that his legitimacy as president is being called into question. I don't think that's right or fair. Clearly, you don't either. But do you think the more we get wind of information like meetings that we didn't know were going on, or that business tie-ins prior that we didn't know were there, at least raise concerns about ties that are dangerous?
I see no evidence of collusion so far. Even leading Democrats, Joe Manchin, Mark Warner, Dianne Feinstein are on record saying the same thing. Trey Gowdy said something interesting on Sunday. He said, as chairman of the Oversight Committee, I've seen more classified and top secret documents than anybody, and I have yet to see a scintilla of evidence of collusion, which, by the way, is not even a crime in a political campaign, as I talk about in my book.
No, you go through that. But Sean Spicer was there just the other day, Greg. He has a book out. Yours is doing much better. But anyway, he was saying, Neil, it's not a witch hunt. For the president to call it a witch hunt is not right. You say?
There have been 5 investigative committees looking into this. They have interviewed 175-plus witnesses. They've reviewed 500,000 documents. They have yet to find any evidence. There's no there. What I worry about is a guy like Robert Mueller, who has compromised the integrity of his own investigation by selecting a team of partisans, and he himself should have been conflicted out and I write about it in the book, multiple conflicts of interest.
But are you in the camp that says, impeach Rod Rosenstein, that other movement?
Well, Rosenstein is engaged in continuous acts of defying a lawful subpoena, trying to hide evidence about
the origin. So you think that's justified to impeach him, the move
hoax.
To impeach him?
Well, look, you can't get impeachment.
Okay.
You'd have to get 2/3 in the Senate. That's just not going to happen. So it's not going to work.
But you don't think there's anything here enough to warrant further investigation?
I think Rosenstein should be held in contempt.
No,
because
the president, these connections, do they worry you? That you worry where this is going?
No, not particularly.
Okay.
I lay out the facts, extensive public record, well established. I lay out the evidence
What about
in the
all
law.
the Cohen recorded phone calls and all that?
No, I mean, look, it's an incredible betrayal to surreptitiously record your own client when you're a lawyer. It's unethical.
All right. Well, we're recording this right now. Gregg Jarrett is the author. It's the #1 book on Amazon.com, The Russia Hoax, The Illicit Scheme to Clear Hillary Clinton, Frame Donald Trump, and it is compellingly researched, exhaustively noted. I've never seen anything like it. So good for him.
Thank you, Neil.